Los Angeles sits on the edge of a desert. It gets around 15 inches of rain in a good year, and for most of the last century, it did everything in its power to throw that rain away as fast as it possibly could. Look at the Los Angeles River today and you will see why. It is not really a river anymore. It is a giant concrete channel, a gray trench running about 50 miles through the middle of the city, bone dry most of the year. When the rain does come, that concrete does exactly what it was built to do. It grabs the water and rushes it straight out to the Pacific Ocean. Billions of gallons gone in a matter of hours. It is easy to forget that this was once a living river. For thousands of years it wandered across the basin in soft, shifting channels lined with willows and cottonwoods, feeding marshes where grizzly bears and steelhead trout once lived. The first people here built their villages along it. The Spanish founded the city on its banks because of it. The river was the entire reason Los Angeles existed, and then the city grew faster than the river could be trusted. For 100 years, the plan was simple: get rid of the rain. And for 100 years, the same city that was flushing its storms into the sea was paying a fortune to import water from hundreds of miles away. Then, almost quietly, Los Angeles started doing the opposite. It started catching the storms it used to throw away, and in one record wet winter, it banked more water underground than anyone thought was possible. The story of why the river was buried starts with a disaster. In 1938, a catastrophic flood tore through Los Angeles and killed more than 100 people. The answer back then was concrete. The Army Corps of Engineers wrapped the river and its side streams in a hard channel built for one job: to move floodwater out of the city as fast as gravity allowed. And it worked. The deadly floods stopped. But it came with a hidden cost that took decades to show. Every drop of rain that fell on the growing city now had a superhighway straight to the ocean. The aquifers underneath the city, the ground that had held water for thousands of years, stopped being refilled. So Los Angeles did what a desert city with no water of its own has to do. It reached out and took water from somewhere else. Today, around 2/3 of the water in Los Angeles is imported. It comes from the Sierra Nevada mountains, far to the north, from the rivers of the Sacramento Delta, and from the Colorado River. Enormous amounts of energy are burned, lifting that water over mountains and pushing it across the state into a city that was letting its own rain run into the sea. This was a habit as old as modern Los Angeles. Back in 1913, the city reached more than 200 miles north and drained the Owens Valley to slake its thirst, a decision the people in that valley have never forgiven. The instinct was always the same. When you need water, go and take someone else's, and never mind the rain running through your own backyard. Sit with that for a second. A place on the edge of a desert, so short of water it drains 3 separate distant sources, was engineered to reject the free water falling out of its own sky. If stories like this are why you are here, this is exactly what we do on this channel. Subscribe to Comeback Atlas and stick around, because the turn in this one is worth it. Fixing the mistake did not mean tearing out the concrete. It meant catching the water before it reached the sea. And Los Angeles County already had the tool. Scattered across the region are places called spreading grounds. From the road, they look like empty gravel basins behind a chain-link fence. Easy to drive past without a second thought. In truth, they are some of the most valuable land in Southern California. Here's how they work. When the storms roll in, the county's 14 major dams up in the mountains hold the floodwater back and let it out in a slow, controlled flow. That water is guided down into the spreading grounds, wide, shallow basins where it is simply allowed to sit. Driven by nothing but gravity, it soaks down through the sand and gravel, cleaned naturally as it goes until it sinks into the aquifers far below. The ground becomes a bank. Later, in the dry months, that same water can be pumped back up, treated, and sent to people's taps. The flagship of the system is the Tujunga Spreading Grounds in the San Fernando Valley, one of 27 such sites the county runs, and keeping them working is not glamorous. The county has spent more than $1 billion since the start of this century raising dams and deepening basins, and a surprising share of that goes to scraping out the sediment every storm leaves behind, so the ground never loses its room to soak. Crews work the whole year for a few weeks of rain, watching the forecasts, deciding days ahead how much each reservoir should release and when, moving the water down the mountains in a slow, deliberate chain so that as little as possible slips past to the sea. Then came the proof. In the storm season that ended in the spring of 2026, Los Angeles County captured just over 120 billion gallons of stormwater. That is roughly 10 times what it caught the year before. It is enough to recharge the aquifers for about 3 million people for an entire year. And even in a normal season the year prior, the county still banked more than 96 billion gallons, close to a quarter of the whole region's yearly demand. Water that for a century would have been dumped in the ocean is now sitting under the city waiting for the next drought. And it is not only happening in the giant basins. Across the city, smaller pieces of the same idea are going in one street at a time. Curbside gardens that swallow gutter runoff, cisterns and rain barrels bolted onto ordinary homes, porous pavement that lets a parking lot drink instead of shed. On its own, each one is tiny, a few thousand gallons here and there. Added together across millions of people, they slowly turn the whole city into a surface that holds the rain instead of racing it to the sea. The county even pays people to build them, the same way it once paid to pipe water in. This is the part that gets people. Nobody built a miracle machine. Nobody invented a new technology. The county raised some dams, dug out some basins, and let gravity and sand do what they have always done. The rain was never the problem. The city had simply trained itself to waste it. Now here is where honesty matters, because the sharper viewers watching this are already asking the obvious question. Is it really fixed? And the honest answer is not yet. That record of 120 billion gallons came in an unusually wet winter. In a dry year, the system captures far less. Even at full strength today, the city's own facilities can only hold a fraction of what falls, and plenty of rain still escapes to the sea in the biggest storms. Los Angeles still imports the majority of its water, and the Colorado River it leans on is shrinking every year. This is a city that has started to fix a 100-year-old mistake, not a city that is finished. But direction matters. The plan now is to keep expanding, to push the amount of stormwater the city can bank higher every season, aiming to roughly double its capacity within the next decade. Every new basin, every neighborhood built to soak instead of shed, means a little less water bought from far away and a little more kept at home. What makes this story land is how ordinary the answer turned out to be. For 100 years, a great American city looked at the rain as a danger to be flushed away. It built one of the largest drainage systems on Earth to get rid of the very thing it was buying by the trainload. And the fix was not to conquer the water, it was to stop throwing it away, to let it slow down, sink in, and stay. The rain was always going to fall on Los Angeles. The only question was whether the city would finally let it land. If you want more stories of wasted resources and dead places brought back to life, subscribe to Comeback Atlas. There is a lot more where this came from.